The very first judicial system was thought to have begun in the 22nd century BC by an ancient Sumerian ruler. Then, in 1760 BC, some changes were implemented by King Hammurabi, who had them inscribed on stone. We've come a long way since then, and sadly it's not all good. Today we have a look at some of the craziest lawsuits that have ever been filed. Number 21. Me versus me. When it comes to crazy lawsuits, you can't get much better than the guy who sued himself. Let me introduce you to Robert Lee Brock, a man who was serving time for drinking and committing a series of crimes. In order to come up with the money needed to settle the damages, he sued himself for $5 million, which he then requested the state to pay on his behalf. The judge called it a quote-unquote innovative approach to civil rights litigation, but said that it was totally ludicrous. Number 20. Brush, floss, rinse, repeat. Who knew going to prison would make one suddenly become very worried about dental hygiene, but that was the case when 4 inmates sued when they weren't awarded the right to dental floss. Unfortunately for the inmates, their court case went nowhere because, as Sheriff Rick Bradshaw rightly pointed out, dental floss can easily be used as a weapon. Number 19. When enough is never enough. Chapstick found itself the center of attention when a lawsuit was filed against it. I'm sure you're keen to know why. Well, some clever chaps decided that Chapstick has been deceiving all of us for years, and that the empty gap at the bottom of the tube made us believe there was more than there actually was. That gap is called a slack fill, and usually slack fills accommodate for packaging purposes, or to prevent a product from being crushed. The case was dropped in a heartbeat because the product clearly stated how much of the product was pure chapstick. Number 18. Beauty is skin deep. Except that didn't matter in this case, because a Chinese man couldn't understand why his exceptionally beautiful wife would give birth to such an ugly child. When he discovered that his wife had had extensive plastic surgery, he was horrified and sued her for $120,000. And yes, he divorced her too. He sued her on grounds that she tricked him into marriage under false pretenses. Here's the amazing bit. He won the case. Number 17. Don't burst your bubble. For reasons unbeknownst to us, a prankster thought it would be a fine idea to dump detergent into a water fountain in Duluth, Minnesota, which proceeded to create a huge mountain of bubbles. Along came Kathy Kelly, who proceeded to slip, fall into the fountain, and lacerate her shin. Kelly suffered with diabetes, which meant she couldn't heal as easily as you or me, and the wound became infected and cost her $43,000 in medical fees. She sued and was awarded $125,000. She was well worth in her right to sue, but it's the situation leading to the court case that is totally weird. Number 16. Sad face. Here's a lesson for you to learn today. Don't mix emojis with business. An Israeli couple found themselves $2,000 in arrears when they overused the little symbols. The couple had been in touch with a landlord and expressed interest in an apartment they had seen online. During their exchange with the landlord, they used various icons like happy face, champagne bottle popping, and a peace sign. The landlord assumed that meant they were taking the apartment and took it off the internet. Turns out, they weren't taking it and backed out. The landlord lost a month's rent and took them to court. He won the case, with the judge adding, although this message did not constitute a binding contract between the parties, this message naturally led to the plaintiff's great reliance on the defendant's desire to rent his apartment. Number 15. Doppelganger. You would assume that looking like someone famous would certainly have its perks. Alan Heckard looks a lot like Michael Jordan, and he was getting fed up with constantly being harassed by people. He tried to sue Michael Jordan and Nike for $832 million, citing emotional suffering. He said he just wanted to be recognized for himself and not as Michael Jordan. A year later, he dropped the case. Number 14. Child's play. 11-year-old Matthew Migliaccio has found a little internet fame thanks to a ball he threw during a Little League game. I'd love to say the throw was incredible, but he was a little off and hit Elizabeth Lloyd, a spectator, accidentally. She is suing the boy for $150,000 on the grounds that the throw was reckless. The boy's father has come forward saying the whole situation is surreal and that they are hoping it just goes away. Number 13. Barely believable. Here's a story that will put a bee in your bonnet. Over in Macedonia, a local beekeeper was annoyed with bears that kept breaking his beehives, that he decided to take the bears to court. This one is true. He explained to the court that he tried several methods to distract the bears, but had no success. The bears were found guilty, but how they managed to pay over the $2,700 is still a mystery. Number 12. Tell it to the judge. And you thought the Americans were bad with their unusual lawsuits. We are back in Israel, where a woman has successfully sued a television station for an inaccurate weather prediction. They said the weather was going to be sunny, but it ended up raining. The woman claims she dressed for a summer day and ended up catching the flu thanks to the rain. She was awarded $1,000. Number 11. Age is but a number. Or so you thought. This is Rolf Eden, an 81-year-old German playboy. He tried to sue a 19-year-old woman who didn't want to sleep with him due to his age. The pair had a lovely night out, but when it came down to the nitty-gritty, she refused on grounds of ageism. Eden's case was that there are laws against discrimination, and this was a case of discrimination. Number 10. Just ask. This whole scenario could have had a much simpler solution if Stacy Pincus had just asked. She took Starbucks to court over their watered-down iced coffees. The crux of her complaint was that the beverage contained much less of the actual product due to the huge amount of ice they added to it. As Starbucks politely replied, she could have just requested less ice. Number 9. Hard to believe. This is a story that will highlight everything that is wrong with our world today. Tomás Delgado, a wealthy Spanish businessman, was well over the speed limit when he rode into a little boy. Delgado was fortunate to avoid jail time because the kid was cycling in the dark without a helmet or a reflector. But here's the rubbish bit. Delgado ended up suing the boy's family for damages to his vehicle. Number 8. Who gives a rat's? Austin Aitken was part of Fear Factor in 2005, and someone should have reminded him that it's called Fear Factor for a reason. Anyway, on this particular episode, contestants had to drink a rat smoothie, and as the name suggests, the smoothie was made from rats. There was $50,000 at stake. The paralegal sued the series over this barbaric task, stating that it made his blood pressure rise, made him vomit, and caused him great pain and suffering. He was after $2.5 million. Number 7. All rise. There will be no court rising for the judge in this situation, although when you hear the story, you'll realize that there are other things that might rise. Tara Obenauer, a Wall Street executive, was allegedly having an affair with a Nassau County, New York police officer. Things couldn't have ended well for the pair because she sued the county for their negligence and claims that they should have picked up on the affair and stopped it. She was suing for quote-unquote severe and substantial emotional damage due to the affair, but the county's lawyer stated that the case defies imagination. Number 6. An oldie, but a goodie. This is the case that more than likely fueled lists just like this. It goes back to 1992 when a 72-year-old woman spilled her hot McDonald's coffee into her lap. She went on to win a lawsuit against McDonald's in the tune of $3 million. McDonald's had to cough it up and have ensured that ever since then they have added a warning sign on their cups telling people that its contents are hot, like way too hot. Number 5. Totally out there. This could possibly top the crazy list. This lawsuit right here. A man from Quebec filed a case to get control over the entire universe. To be specific, he wanted control of the planets, the moon, Earth, and every bit of space between all of them. We think you probably have guessed the outcome, but to add to his unsuccessful quest, he was ordered to never file a lawsuit without written consent from a judge first. Number 4. Elvis has left the building. It's common knowledge that there are some Elvis fans that refuse to believe that he has crossed the Rainbow Bridge, but most of them wouldn't go to the lengths that one Texas fellow did. This man filed a lawsuit against Elvis Presley Enterprises and presented his case to prove that Elvis was very much alive, was tired of living the life of fame, and went on to live a normal life somewhere far away. During the lawsuit, the man claimed that Elvis had phoned him many times for a chat. You know, we wish that we could make this stuff up. Number 3. Fly away with me. One of the most insane lawsuits that ended in favor of the plaintiff was the Red Bull case. The man in question took Red Bull to court, saying that Red Bull did not give him wings. Anyone would realize it's just a little fun marketing angle and that it just means it's going to give you energy, but this dude wasn't buying that. Red Bull settled on an amount of $13 million and would reimburse customers $10 or Red Bull products to the value of $15. When the results were posted, their website crashed with people trying to claim their free Red Bull. Number 2. Get your facts straight. When Donald Trump claims to be a billionaire, who are we to dispute that? Author Timothy O'Brien thought that it was hogwash and called him out on it. He claimed that Trump was no billionaire, but rather a simple millionaire. So what did Trump do? Sued O'Brien for defamation to the value of $5 billion. Guess if he had won the case, he would have actually been a billionaire. The case was dropped, with the judge ruling that O'Brien meant no malice to Trump. Number 1. We can dream, right? The majority of adverts today still use attractive people to sell their products, assuring you of a certain lifestyle should you purchase them. Budweiser found themselves the center of attention when they were sued for false and misleading advertising. Richard Overton sued them in 1991 for $10,000, stating that he had suffered financial loss and emotional distress as he had invested a lot in the product in the hope of achieving the advertised lifestyle. It was obviously unsuccessful. Which of these lawsuits do you find the most difficult to believe? Let us know in the comments below and subscribe to our channel for more quirky videos just like this one. Thanks for watching.